Hey guys, welcome back to another F1 Fantasy video. And in today's video, we're going to be having a look ahead of the Qatar Grand Prix on what you can do to your fantasy team. We're going to have a look at the major changes. We're going to have a look at how well I've been doing. And yeah, hopefully I'll just give you some tips that you can use ahead of Qatar. So let's get straight into it. But before we do that, make sure to like and subscribe, follow my league, follow my Twitter, and hey, let's get into it. So let's have a look at the changes that have happened before the Qatar Grand Prix. So let's start off with Red Bull, where Verstappen has gone up 0.2 mil in price. Perez has gone down in 0.5 mil, pretty understandable. And the constructor itself has gone up 0.1 million. And then we can move on to Mercedes, with Russell moving up 0.3 million. He didn't have the best weekend, but his price is quite low for a Mercedes, so that's why he went up. And then Hammy and Mercedes both went up 0.1 mil respectively. Then we move on to Ferrari. Funnily enough, when I was doing the research, I didn't expect this. I don't think this has happened before. But they all moved up the exact same price value. 0.3 mil all around. Maybe not Leclerc and Ferrari, but I expect Sainz's price to move up quite a lot. Especially with Qatar coming up. I think Ferrari are going to be good there. Obviously, we can't tell until Friday, and of course, because it's a sprint race weekend, we won't know fully for sure until the sprint shootout. But I have a feeling, because I feel like Qatar's a lot more like Monza and stuff. It's high speed, so we'll find out on the weekend. But yeah, Ferrari, especially Sainz, I expect to be moving up more and more in price into the 20 millions. Then we move on to McLaren, which were the highest moving constructor, with the constructor itself moving up 1 million. Same with Lando Norris. If you've brought him along from like the days where he was around 10, 11, 12 million, then you should still have him in your team, and he is vital if you've kept him in your team for that long. And then, of course, we have Piastri, who moved up 1.5 million. Outstanding for him. Of course, he got his first podium in Japan. So, of course, his value was going to move up a lot after that race weekend. McLaren is a must. I'll talk more about it later in this video. Definitely not biased, but if you've seen the fantasy points, you'll know why, but I'll talk about that later in this video. Then Aston Martin itself, Alonso gone up 1 million. Alonso, I'm a bit skeptical about. I think the train's left the station for Aston Martin. It's a shame, but I think their season's over. Of course, I might be wrong, and in Qatar, that's why I do recommend, even after you watch this video, just make sure to wait until Friday to do your changes, because Aston Martin might bring upgrades, they might do something that no one expected them to do, and they might just be fast. But for now, I don't think Aston Martin are going to do anything. Lance Stroll down 0.1 million. Aston Martin didn't change value. I think it's time to not go near Aston Martin. And then we'll have a little look at the lower teams, which of course starts with Gasly, Ocon, Zhou, Hulkenberg and Lawson, all moving up 0.5 million each. Now, Gasly and Ocon moving up 0.5 mil. I've always said this, and it always haunts me, but I'll say it again. Don't go near them. They're not worth their prices, especially every time they go up. It's like, please do not go near them. It's a trap. And then Lawson, fair enough, but it means that his teammate now, Tsunoda, is a very good choice to have. And then Albon, Sargent, and Bottas all moved down 0.1 million. So let's have a look at the teams you can use ahead of Qatar. So for me, there are two teams you can choose. Now, either layout you have, you've probably got one or the other certain layouts. They both have the same core, and I'll talk about the core right now. They both have Verstappen. Of course, he's been bossing it this whole season. You have to have him in your team, no matter what his price is. You've then got Piastri. Piastri has been so cheap, and if you've had him recently, with his price movements going up, you got to get him soon, otherwise by the end of the season he'll be too expensive. He's still only 12.5 million, which is only a little bit more than the Alpines, and he's getting you so many points. Just have a look at his points from Suzuka, for instance. It's just incredible. And then Lando Norris, of course, 16.7 million. I would still recommend bringing him in, but his price has gone up a lot. You've had to have had him now since Britain, which was quite a while ago. But yeah, because his price has skyrocketed since then. And then with that core, you also have the constructors of Red Bull and McLaren. I think that's non-negotiable now. Those are the two teams you have to have. Ferrari, too expensive. Same with Mercedes. So let's actually get on to what the teams are. So the first team is Verstappen, Piastri, Alonso, Norris, Albon, with Red Bull and McLaren. And now the reason Alonso and Albon are decent picks is Alonso will always get you top 10 finishes. He got you 18 points in Japan. His points speak for himself. Highly recommend having him in if you want this sort of team. And then obviously the Albon pick, it's a little bit risky now. Really don't know about Williams. I didn't expect this sort of pace from them. I don't know what happened. So they brought in the upgrades and then just instantly fell back down. Maybe in Qatar they'll be better because it's a bit like Monza. But I thought that about Suzuka. So we'll have to wait and see. But for me, right now, I still have this team since last race weekend. But it's looking like I will move over to the other team, which I'm about to talk about. But I will wait for Friday, like I can't say enough. So let's move on to the other team, which I have been calling the Perez team, but I'm now calling it the Sainz team because I think Sainz is a better option. But basically, it's the same core like I've been talking about, but Alonso to Sainz, so a bit of a price increase, but that's what we've been saving up our money these past few race weekends to do. And then we drop Albon to Tsunoda. Like I've been talking about, Tsunoda is sitting at such a low price value because of things he couldn't do anything about in multiple race weekends recently. So if he doesn't get unlucky, he's such a great fifth driver to have. And with Williams doing what they're doing at the minute, if Williams look bad, Alonso and Albon aren't the better option. Because Alonso and Albon are good if they're both in the top 10. So if they're not, it's a bit rubbish. But if we bring in Sainz, who's a little bit more valuable, he will be getting you top sixes most race weekends. And then Tsunoda, you just got to hope that he has a decent race weekend. But Sainz will carry you more than Alonso would for Albon. So it's a difficult scenario to have because both teams are good. And if you do go for the Sainz team, you can also have Perez. Of course, Perez is in a bit of a slump at the minute. If you went for Perez and you have the value for it, you're probably going to be looking at a Sargent now who's the cheapest, which is also a bit of problematic because Sargent's been crashing a lot. So do you really want him? That's why I want to really stick clear of the Perez choice for there. But you can also, funnily enough, go for Russell. I wouldn't because I don't really have as much faith in Mercedes at the minute than I do at Ferrari. But if Mercedes look good, swap out Sainz for Russell and you're sitting pretty. So there's multiple teams and you can alter these teams as well. But those are the two main teams. Do what you want with those teams because there are slight variations to them. But yeah, stick to the core, please, of Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Red Bull and McLaren, and you will do well. So let's go see if you'll need any chips this weekend. And of course, it's a sprint race weekend. So you know what I'm going to say. Yes, if you have Limitless, use it. If you have extra DRS, use it. Now, my Limitless will be coming out on my Twitter on Friday. I like to make Limitlesses on the day because it could very much be of course, have both Red Bulls in. Most of the time, that's the best way to do it with Red Bull. But then who else is it? Mercedes as a constructor? Do you keep McLaren? Do you go for a Ferrari? And then the drivers. Do you have two Ferrari duos with Hamilton? Do you bring in Russell because he's looking fast this weekend? So it very much comes down to the practice results and looking at which team will be the fastest. Again, with the extra DRS, pretty simple. Put it on Verstappen. Depending on what team you have, if I was in that situation, I'd be putting my extra DRS on Verstappen and then the normal DRS on Norris because then he's my next best driver. But if you go for the Sainz choice, which I might be doing as well, then of course it's Verstappen and Sainz as your DRS duo. So I hope that clears it up. Also, that goes for any of the other chips. If you have any chips left, use it on a sprint race weekend because they're always the best weekends to do these sorts of things. So let's move on to the league positions. And actually, before we actually talk about that, I've never actually spoken about why my second and third team always are so much further down. And it's basically because I only use my first team. I use my second and third team for things such as thumbnails, if I need to change the team, if I'm experimenting with the Limitless, so I always have to have my Limitless chip on one of the extra teams. So like YouTube stuff. But yeah, that's why all of my second team and third team are worse than my first team, because I don't actually use them. So as you can see, I'm almost in the top 20k now in the world. I'm really pushing for top 15,000 by the end of the season, which I'm hoping I can get to. With the teams I've been saying, I don't see why I can't. And then let's have a look at my league. Of course, I've already put it in the description. I put it at the start of the video, but I can't ask you enough. Please join my league. We've got 115 people in it. Thank you all so much for joining it. It means so much to me having you all in my personal league. It feels fantastic. And as always, I give a shout out to the top 5. So here it goes. Number 1, El Shemali. I believe you've been number 1 now for 3 weeks or 2. But congratulations, you actually have a massive gap at the minute as well. So keep doing what you did and you could win it all. Leapers 1, congratulations for 2nd place. Carry on doing well. Can you close the gap to El Shemali? Let's see. Rivaldi HV F1 team, well done for moving up to 3rd place again. Very well done keeping in the top 5. You've been in the top 5 for a long time in this league. Fast and Furious 101, congratulations on your 4th place. And then Rod Ben Racing, you've dropped down to 5th, but you're still in the top 5. So let's push forward and hopefully you can break back into the top 3. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you can take something out of this video that will help you with your F1 fantasy. And I'll see you all for the next video this week. Have a great week. Bye bye.